Why in the world are they spraying? The topic of Michael Murphy's new film that attempts to take a look at the role of geoengineering in weather modification. Now we're talking about the environment and that kind of thing, and of course, there's always a website that James has in his media empire in which we'll cover a topic that we come up with here on the spot, genuinely, organically. James, let's go to Food World Order. I mentioned how much of a fan I am. What do we got going on there?
Well, I just wanted to kind of take it for a second. You were talking about, chemtrails before the break, and yeah, you mentioned, why in the, because isn't it, the first one was what in the world are they spraying, and then the follow-up was why in the world are they spraying? I look at it sometimes, not even thinking necessarily about the geoengineering and all their ridiculous things that, again, you look on one thing and it says, oh, everything's heating up. You look at another, it's like, no, actually, it's about to go into a really, really cold cycle. And is it man-made? Is it, all we have to do is look at the military and the, murder military-industrial complex to know that, they're the biggest polluters, they're the biggest destroyers, they're the biggest wasters of resources. But, we're bad because you're not recycling correctly, as if, you're the main problem. But I always think of the spraying. I think essentially what they're spraying is aluminum and barium and God knows what else. And you could basically make a sort of, you're making a screen. You're making kind of a canvas in the sky. So then you blast up your Tupac hologram up on the sky screen, and then you use the audio spotlights like the billboard ads in Times Square a couple of years ago that beam sound into your head, and you'll think you've seen God or
some
aliens.
People think
or
that was done on 9/11,
or
where that sort of technology was used. But without going down on that gross digression, let's talk about the Tupac Project Bluebeam connection with Harp here. The Tupac Project Bluebeam.
But I knew exactly what you meant.
Yeah,
and I covered it, of course, even in advance. I was talking about, because this all took place at the Coachella concert in California. They've been doing it for, I don't think it's quite 10 years now, but it's in the desert in California, and it's a big, used to be kind of alternative festival. Now it's, like everything else, it slowly becomes, mainstream and lowest common denominator because you have to appeal to everybody. And I talked about it on the show because, of course, I'm a huge music fan. There were some of my favorite bands actually played at a band, Pulp, out of the UK, reunited and did shows there. So I was excited to see those, and they streamed it all on YouTube. And a listener of mine actually in London had sent me an email, 3 days before the Tupac, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre thing, and sent me a video that was just like a tabloidy celebrity news outlet that said, oh, they're going to unveil this Nate Dogg hologram at Coachella. But it turned out to be the Tupac hologram. So my speculation was the word was starting to get out, so they substituted Tupac, which of course ring alarm bells around the world, with Nate Dogg, which wouldn't be as well known to people. So then when they did roll out the Tupac hologram, it had, maximum kind of shock, wow effect. And that was the topic of conversation. And it's one of those kind of stories that people who know what I do, like, oh man, I knew you'd be, you'd be all over that story. But the Coachella Valley, that is the Cabazon Indian tribe. And it's also former military base area, and it's basically where the nexus of the Danny Casolaro octopus investigation goes to. The Inslaw, Promise, Department of Justice, Michael Riconosciuto, all of that stuff has its, tentacles in Coachella Valley, California. So I find it fascinating that there is this kind of mass, media spectacle event on, wouldn't you know it, Indian/military grounds.
You know about the Tupac conspiracy? Anything?
It's funny. On the one hand, you'll only ever read, and his murder, remains unsolved to this day. But then if you go and look at actually just kind of music outlets, I couldn't bring it up for you right here, but I think essentially they kind of know who was involved. And of course, you think when you play ball with gangsters and banksters and multi-generational serial killers, whatever, costume they may wear, whether that's, I'm a, music mogul, or I'm a politician, or I'm a banker. You think when you play ball with them that you're going to be okay, that you're going to be remembered. Oh, I'm down with you guys. I helped you. You're going to, you'll help me out later, right? No, they will bump you off because you know too much. So whether you helped fix the, the vote fraud, or, internet stuff, or the Bush crime family, they'll crash your plane. Or, if you rob banks with gangsters, they'll put you in the dumpster. They'll put you in the trash truck. So if you play along on any level, I think you're probably going to get burnt. But it basically looks like the people involved, like I said, are either in prison or dead, and basically had connections to the LAPD and, moonlighted as, bodyguards.
I like the gangster and banksters catchphrase you just said. That's great. Gangsters and banksters. And they go together. And I was getting at not necessarily whether or not he's alive or whatnot, because that's something that I remember hearing about, especially in high school. I'm giving away my age here. People are like, hey, who's Tupac? Why the hell does that have to do with the Federal Reserve System and the pop? Hold on. I'm not aged here, but deal with us here. This is something that affects those youngsters and their future, of course. And what I was wondering is whether or not Tupac's been used as this sort of martyr for the ghetto thug mentality, when it's really a lot of upper middle class white kids from suburbia that were bumping his music just as much as the people in the urban settings. But I was wondering if maybe there was a conspiracy of some sort to censor his material. Maybe he was getting into some more conscious lyrics. I feel like they tried to undermine his conscious lyrics and put forward his more divisive lyrics. And in addition to that, I know he had some weird symbolism in some of his music. We've been seeing all these symbols popping up in pop culture music these days. Well, Tupac had Illuminati. What is that a reference to?
There you go. And he, the hologram, mentioned that when he was performing. Illuminati. I think it was one of the kind of names that they use. Just like, Jay-Z, what's he call his record label? Rockefeller. He calls himself Hova. Again, in the media memes world, you have to speculate sometimes, and folks coin synchro mysticism. But I, in a way, see, and I've been tracking this on the show now for the last several weeks, in addition to, which I think we probably discussed last month, we talked about just all the Titanic memes, which still kind of go on to this day. I see, all of these, whether it's yacht wrecks or, ship sinkings or famous swimmers drowning. There's, just every day I still see these kind of water stories. But with the, I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
The Titanic thing has gone viral. Well, I don't know if you got to catch up on that for the 100th anniversary or not.
What I was going to say is it seems in a way that there's almost a replacing happening of any of the kind of mainline older guard people. So, Whitney Houston gets bumped off so Jennifer Hudson can rise. And, we remember her entire family was murdered a year or so ago. Yeah,
that's sketchy too. And now that trial, of course, is a mainstream media spectacle.
And that, to me, just seems like another sort of, ritual, the testing, whether that's Taylor Swift, or any of those things they do to these, kind of Disney-created culture, performers. And that the older guard are being bumped off and being replaced by ultimately, people who have nothing to say, people who are completely vacuous and offer, nothing to culture to make it rise. So, the guy who played Barnabas Collins on the Dark Shadows TV show, he died Friday the 13th, just as Tim Burton and Johnny Depp's new Dark Shadows comes out this week. And, I've speculated about Helena Bonham Carter and her elite connections, and Tim Burton perhaps as Johnny Depp handler. Depp showed up playing with Marilyn Manson recently. and maybe his marriage is on the right. Just you look at these things, and when you see kind of celebrities freak out or do oddball things or shave their head, I guess we sure haven't heard from the Quades on any Star Whackers updates, but
no, we haven't.
I just kind of see all of that kind of swirling around the media right now.
I'm thinking about shaving my head and having a moment there. It's gonna be the Bob Tuskin breakdown. Just kidding. Let me take that opportunity to say that I will not hurt myself, anybody around me. I love life. I'm healthy. And I have no child porn on my computer, you frickin' feds. We'll be right back.